How can we negotiate more effectively? Part 2. Both parties should then expand the pie by identifying multiple options and discussing them at length. The key is to look for creative ways to improve both parties' options. It's important to rely on objective standards, not opinions, to determine whether an option is fair. Once we've identified different options, we can begin to make concessions or trade-offs based on both parties' priorities. For instance, the other party may be interested in something that doesn't interest us. In this case, it makes sense to give the other party what they want since it isn't a priority to us. The other party is more likely to make a concession when we make one too. Throughout the process, there are a few things we can do to turn a small advantage into a large advantage. For instance, we may have limited authority to make concessions and can put the blame on the decision makers when options are not negotiable. We can also ask for a break from the negotiation to collect more information, prepare for the next phase of the process, or put pressure on the other party if they're facing a deadline. Of course, these tactics are risky and they should be used sparingly. It's also important that we learn how to ignore the other party's influence tactics. For example, they may use the silent treatment or a long list of questions to get us to share important information and give up our negotiating power. They may use the good guy, bad guy approach to both intimidate us and make us believe they care about our interests. Displeasing body language and facial expressions can also influence our response, but we need to ignore these tactics and simply restate our interests. If the other party uses any form of outrageous behavior, we may want to think about ending the negotiation. If we come to an agreement, we may need to finalize it by clarifying the exact terms. Remember, we should only agree to terms that are better than our BATNA. It may or may not be appropriate to get the agreement in writing. It depends on the situation. Like most processes in OB, the final step is to evaluate the negotiation and learn from it. Successful negotiations are those in which all parties feel good about the agreement and the relationship between parties is maintained. Following these 7 steps will help managers negotiate win-win agreements and get more than what was expected for all parties.